So I got approved for production. My application was successful after I finished closed testing. And to celebrate, I broke my app. So long story short is after you go through closed testing, which again is 12 users across 14 consecutive days, you can then apply for production. You've met the criteria, you've met all of the different requirements, and now Google says, hey, fill out this application. It's questions about, what's your app and what's it about, who's your target audience, why do people want to use it, what did you get for feedback, how did you act on that, basic stuff. But I submitted that a couple days later, got the, hey, you've been approved. The part that they didn't tell you was that it actually required a new track for production as opposed to testing. So testing has closed testing here, and then it will take you into the statistics and the published overview. There's nothing here because I've completed all the steps. But if you go into production, you have to create a new release. And I was like, well, if I'm releasing something new, I had this idea for a new enhancement. Why don't I just go live with it and really impress everybody? One of them was to change the icon a little bit. The other one was to actually introduce the ability to select from your contacts list what's going on. So I went immediately into Lovable, and I said, hey, I'll spare you the upper part, but actually, no, I won't. I just said I'd like to be able to keep the ability to add contacts into the list. That's what this does. We saw this before. It's only available on mobile devices. So I made the mistake. I'll repeat that. I made the mistake of assuming that would be okay. So I didn't follow through with all my other steps and test it fully. And what happened is when I pushed it to production, it broke. It did not have all of the permissions for contacts. So, word to the wise, always test everything. The next piece, after I realized it broke, was, hey, draft a policy, need to update the privacy policy because now it's asking for write permissions to contact. We don't use them, but for whatever reason, when you want to add users to the list, it requires write permission. Anyway, it went through, it updated that, and it told me, here's the HTML for your new changes. I pasted error messages. For whatever reason, it's not showing them here. They must have timed out or whatnot. I'll see if I can find the original screenshots. Probably not, because I take them live from Android Studio. I don't actually save them. I save them to clipboard. But it added the right contact, as in right, W-R-I-T-E, not right as in correct, just to clarify. Once that went through, it's saying, hey, I found the issue. I'll go ahead and update it. I reiterated a few different times, trim this up, write that. And I had to tell them, no, you broke it. And so we got it fixed. Oh, there it is. You can see it. So see how this has tabfare across here, and then all blue squiggles and blue squiggles. That was showing on my app, and this was after it got released to production. So this was a much bigger issue for me because it just looked sloppy, and it also prevented some functionality in terms of you couldn't go back from the privacy policy window, which was the bigger problem that I had. It also prevented you from being able to see if you clicked on check for updates. That was just right in the spot where it would tell you, no, you're up to date. So it was pretty problematic to have. And then 4 or 5 different iterations back and forth, I could not get it fixed. So I had to go to ChatGPT. I don't know if I actually have the window, just to give you an idea of how many I have here. There's lots and lots and lots. It might be this one. That's all my new HTML, which I haven't updated yet. So this website, littleusefulapps.com, is going to get a small facelift because I'm now on production, so early access and things like that does not make sense. In fact, I may record doing that live if you want to see that. But we'll go through. This is all the updates. Now, the problem is, and this is a real problem, I have so many chats you can rename, but it's difficult to actually find anything. The search feature I find is very lacking. The reason I do that is because I try to keep things separate. If it's a separate enough topic and it doesn't require you to keep everything in the same thread, basically if it's stuff that I don't necessarily have to remember, I do a new thread to try to keep things separated. Where that falls apart is when you try to reference specifics, not generality. Like any chat that I open in ChatGPT will know that I have Tabfair. It will not understand fully, though, if I change the application logo, if I change the byline, if I change one piece of it. It's not smart enough to know that level of detail. Only if you remain within that same thread will it know and be able to recall that. So just if you ever use ChatGPT, that is one of the biggest problems that I've had with it. And I'm not saying it's a problem from the standpoint of most people probably don't have dozens of chats in 85 different iterations the same way that I do. I consider it to be a user error, not a platform error, but as it were. So this is where I go through and I get to use this, do this, change this, right? So, in terms of the application, I went through. Yeah, I'm at the start of it now. So here's what's going on. So this is the new version. I worked on some of the gradients a little bit. This came out and it was ugly as sin in my opinion. I feel like it's too far off. I know I'm going in reverse, but basically this looked ugly and I wanted to change this. This is where I'm pasting from Android Studio settings. This is where it's telling me. So I had to go through all of this in terms of, I had to set certain versions. I had to upload my Java. I had to delete folders, recreate imagery, go back and change settings in different XML and manifest files. It was this big thing to try to remove the cache and ensure you only had the right thing. So what should have, in my opinion, been this tiny little just update this ended up being 2 broken versions and several hours of iteration to resolve. So that's the one thing that I wish I knew back before I got into this, is just make sure you can clearly articulate each and every piece. Also ensure you have your entire tech stack set up, because I had to update certain things. I had to get a new version of Java, and one of the things that bothers me about ChatGPT is it goes back and forth between how you do things, and that caused confusion as well. So what I mean by that, because I believe in trying to give you all clarity around this, I don't really want you to see all my private stuff, so I'm skipping through some of the stuff. But the white bar where it says, there's one part where it talks about the how to use certain things. So doing this, the Gradlo clean, I did not have the appropriate JavaScript version to do that, so I had to install and update something else. After that, I went through, and here's the path, and there you go. There's one piece where it gives me the code to use React as opposed to OpenStudio, and it was after all of this. How to set my Android theme, how to change this. I will say, and just to be clear, it was only because of ChatGPT giving me these instructions that I was able to resolve the issue. Lovable, no matter how many times I told them it was broken, could not resolve this. So it's important to call that out and give credit where it's due. As much as ChatGPT drives me crazy, Chad is actually a great guy fundamentally. Yes, this right here. This was not how I was actually generating my emulator. So this caused a problem because it got halfway through and the system was like, we can't find this file, we can't do this thing. So it was a little bit problematic. I had to basically go back and do it over again. However, long story short, I finally get it resolved. And that's awesome. So now what I want to do is go through another one for the overall processes. This is my Little Useful Apps current repository. and I'm going to deselect that. But the idea is that this is where I start to edit my permission sets. So this repository tab fair is all my code. You can see this is just stupid code changes, but the little useful apps, that's my actual website. And so what I need to do is update this. I'm going to fetch this because it's already there. And the idea is that this is where I'm going to push those changes. So maybe in the next video, I don't know if I'll record that. I don't know if that's what you're interested in. So just hit me up in the comments if you want to see me do things like update the website. I think more people are here because of the app dev component of this and watching me just completely fumble and bumble all the way around. And I mean completely fumble and bumble. But we'll see what happens, and maybe next time you go to littleusefulapps.com, you'll notice the changes. So that's where things sit right now. So I got approved for production. I then immediately broke my production release, and then I took several hours to fix it. Where things currently stand is that it is live, and what I'd like to believe well. And if you want to be my first download, thank you.